Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on screws. Marred up, messed up, ugly screws. How to fix them with just basic tools that most people have around their house. So let's get into it. So this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a ball peen hammer, any hammer, but we're going to get back to that. The part of this hammer is important. Then you're going to need a hacksaw blade, a little bit of sandpaper. These little nail files are kind of my favorite for this. You're going to need a file, a good small needle file, just because you don't want anything too rough. You want it to be fairly fine, and obviously a screwdriver. We're going to talk about that as well. But so now, seeing the screw, how bad it's messed up, let me show you how to fix it. Now, what causes this, not having the proper screwdriver, you want a hollow ground screwdriver or parallel tips. These become perfectly parallel at the top, and fitting inside of this, you want one the same width and length, or as least close as possible to the length. And that'll actually keep your screws from ever getting marred up. But it's not uncommon to see these screws always messed up. Now this one is off a pietta. And pietta's metal, the metal they use, is extremely soft. It'll get marred up. I will have a video coming soon on how to harden these screws, make them at least more durable and tougher than they are from the factory. Now they're made of mild steel, so you cannot harden mild steel, but there is a technique that you can do to harden it, and it's basically how the frames were done on guns back in the day. The color case hardening wasn't for the looks. It took any kind of metal that was malleable, like say mid-grade steel. And what it does is you allow carbon to come in. That's why mid-grade steel can't be hardened. There's not enough carbon in it. And the process allows you to put carbon into the screw, thus hardening it. But we'll make a video all about that sooner or later. Alright, the second most important tool of all is having a small hammer. Now what's important, I am going to go polish this real quick. You want your hammer face to be polished. You want it to be very, very smooth, because if you start hammering on anything and it isn't smooth, it'll put those indents on the hammer onto your part. So now, as you can see, I polished the head. Now you don't need a polishing tool to really do this. You can start with a file, a fine cut file, and get rid of all the marks and dings on your hammer. And then use sandpaper. Starting off at around 100 grit and ending at around 800 grit, you'll be just fine. It'll work just fine for you. So you don't need to be perfectly mirrored like mine. Mine, it's easier to mirror shine it because I have a giant buffer and it does it in seconds. So now let me show you how to do this. Okay, so the preferred method to do this would be to actually drill a hole in either aluminum or steel that's the same size as your screw. So you could just pop it in there, and then the screw head is sticking out. I'm going to do it with the drill instead, just because the fact that the less tools you need, the easier this would be for other people. Plus, now a lot of people, we're going to be hammering on this to all the high bits that are sticking up. We're actually going to hammer them down back to where they came from. Now, hitting a drill from the top is not really advisable, but we're using a very small hammer and you're not hitting it very hard. Like I said, the preferred version would be to have it in a piece of steel and hammer it that way, but I've done this a lot as well to just go fast, and it's a drill. And also make sure when you put the screw in the drill, if you do this route, make sure you very lightly clamp it down. You don't want it to be too tight because you'll mar up your threads. So now we're going to take our ball peen hammer, the mirror side, and you're going to lightly tap the top, getting all the metal burrs that have raised up from the old screwdriver. Whoever had done this, either with a bad screwdriver or for whatever reason. The idea though is to now hammer everything in the direction that it came from. So if it's sticking up and to the right, you want to hammer down and to the left. That kind of idea. So you're just lightly tapping on it, going around it on both sides. Until you're satisfied. So let's see where that put us. Alright. So now, sorry guys, I'm having a hard time keeping this camera to focus. These pieces are not sticking up anymore. A little bit. Let me do a little bit more hammering. And it doesn't take much force. I'm literally just holding the hammer and dropping it. I'm not swinging it. And the reason this is the best method is the fact, sorry about the focus guys. Again, it just does not want to focus today. The other ways to do this would be to actually remove a lot of material. I've seen people who will just use a file and a drill like this and just take off all the messed up metal and then just cut the slot a little bit deeper. But doing it this route, you're saving a lot more metal because we're making the steel that had moved, that deformed, putting it back where it's supposed to be. Alright, I call that good. Let's get a look at that. Yep, much better. So now, you're going to take your hacksaw blade, stick it inside the slot. So the idea is to cut away any of the metal that we had hammered down that went a little too far into the slot. Just making the slot parallel again. It just takes a little bit of swipes, nothing crazy. Just want to open that slot back up. Wrong side. There we go. And once you can pull it through fairly easy, nothing crazy. I didn't go deeper. I just wanted to move those burrs. So now, next step, and if you just did this, the screw already looks dramatically better. But the next step is taking a needle file, and we're going to run the drill and run it against the needle file. Now we're not going to do very much of this, but just a little bit. I'm trying to set up a better position for myself. But now we got that. Let's switch over to sandpaper. Now remember, these screws have a little bit of a dome to them, so when you do file and sand it, kind of remember that. Let's see how that came out looking. Oh, not bad. It's getting there. It's a little on the rough side still. Let's do a little bit of the filing or sanding. Alright, ta-da! So as you can see, it looks a million times better. As you can see, the screw came out fairly well. There's a little bit of an indent there on that left side. And if you were really determined to get it perfect, you would just sand it down until you get there, because that's below the surface. But I don't like to take off much metal, and we didn't take off much metal doing this. Now there are many ways to finish this screw now, and one of them would be to cold blue it. The other would be to, regular salt bluing, or, using a torch to make it that pretty blue from, using a torch. Or you can heat it up red hot with a torch and dip it in some oil, and it will turn black as well. So I'm gonna go with the torch blue just to see how it comes out, and I'll bring you guys back. Okay, so we got our screw here again, and a little torch. Now, it needs to be said, when you're putting a screw into a pair of pliers or even into the chuck of the drill, use very light pressure, because you could mess the threads up. Very, very light pressure. So as you can see, and we're about to start the bluing process, I'm going to do the torch bluing. It's not as durable, but it's pretty. Most of you, even myself, when this is done, I'm just going to cold blue it. But if you're going to ever heat blue something, you want water, because when you start heating it, you don't want the blue to, the hotter it gets, it changes colors. And if you get it too hot, or you hit that blue you want, just dip it in water to keep it. So the way to do this is to heat the bottom of the screw until the color starts to show up. As you can see, it's starting to turn brownish colored. Hit it a couple times with the flame, move, hit it a couple times with the flame, move. Right there. So the blue in the camera looks different than in real life. Focus. This blue is way lighter than in real life. When I'm looking at it, it is a very bright, deep blue. It's quite pretty, but the camera kind of changes its color quite a bit. But as you can see, we took a screw that was beat up and most people would replace, and fixed it. And we took away as little material as possible to do so. So I cold blued it as well, so that you guys see how it came out. And like I said, this one didn't come out perfect, just because you can see a little bit of that indent inside the slot. But I've had many come out looking way better than this. And this is a dramatic change from where it was. So I hope you guys take this advice. Instead of replacing your screws, just fix them. It takes almost no time at all. So if you guys like this one, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.